Hey folks, I'm Brendan, and you're watching the Overqualified Henchman. This past weekend, or this past weekend by the time you see this, was one of my favorite annual events. The Toronto Comic Arts Festival, better known as TCAF. Did I pick up anything? Well, how good of you to ask. TCAF is a little different from the comic conventions you're probably thinking of. There's no cosplay, no movie announcements, no television actors signing headshots. Don't get me wrong, I love all of those things, but TCAF is strictly comics and creators. So, it's probably pretty low key, right? Nope. Every year I've gone, TCAF has been packed, and this year was bigger than ever. They filled up the first 3 floors of the Toronto Reference Library. I'm talking side rooms and everything. And they still needed to use the Masonic Temple down the street when they ran out of room. I always walk out of there with a ton of great stuff, so let's run down this year's haul. Here's one I've been meaning to check out for a long time. The Pitiful Human Lizard by Jason Liu. Volume 1, far from legendary, collects the first 5 issues of Pitiful Human Lizard, along with a bunch of bonus content. The Pitiful Human Lizard is a superhero comedy that introduces us to Lucas Barrett, an aspiring superhero who's... he's okay. This is a story that points out that being a superhero isn't just about fighting monsters. It's also sewing your damaged costume and making it out to those weekly jiu-jitsu classes. It's hilarious, but it's also heartfelt. Lucas gets into trouble because he's always biting off more than he can chew, all in the name of helping the innocent. Lou also uses real locations in Toronto for all of his scenes, which is a real treat if you're a local. Another one I've been meaning to check out for a while is By Crom by Rachel Kahn. This is sort of a tough one to describe. It's a slice of life comic, but imagine if instead of getting inspiration from a hang in there kitty poster, you got it from a barbarian. The writing is really personal, and Conan's advice can be funny, but also pretty deep. If there's some days you wake up just thinking, what is best in life? Check out By Crom. I picked up Delilah Dirk and the Turkish Lieutenant by Tony Cliff a couple of years ago at TCAF, and I've been eagerly waiting for the follow-up. And I need wait no longer, because here's Delilah Dirk and the King Shilling. The King Shilling finds Miss Dirk and Mr. Salim traveling around 1800s Europe, pulling off dangerous jobs for worthy causes like the A-Team. Also like the A-Team, Delilah finds herself wrongfully accused of being a French spy by a British officer. Reading Delilah Dirk reminds me of those old hour-long adventure shows like Xena or The Lost World or Young Musketeers. Cliff comes to comics by way of the animation industry, and it really shows in the dynamic energy of his action scenes and how great his expressions are. If you're a fan of swashbuckling and daring do not miss out on the Delilah Dirk series. In sort of a similar vein, I also picked up the first 3 issues of 1001 by Sanya Anwar. 1001 is a reimagining of the classic tale starring Scheherazade. She's a heroine brimming with intelligence and imagination, which unfortunately does not always endear her to those around her. The first few issues don't waste any time setting up a great supporting cast, but also introducing a very dark mystery. 1001 has alchemy, political intrigue, and survival against all odds. If that doesn't sound good to you, I don't know what will. I always try to make a point of picking up something at TCAF that I know nothing about ahead of time but catches my eye. This year I couldn't say no to the first volume of Evil You Know by Haley Helia Millman. It's a sort of weird urban fantasy, and honestly I was sold by the second page when our heroes board a TTC streetcar to go fight a monster in a laundromat. It didn't hurt that Millman was sweetening the deal by doing angelic and demonic portrait sketches. I've always sort of considered myself a peacock feather mouth, hair on fire sort of angel. It's wild that she could pick up on that. This collects just the first 2 stories, but it's enough to whet my appetite and make me want to know more about the world that's being shown. I picked up Buzz by Aneth Panagria and Tessa Stone back in 2014, and although I was able to get it signed by Aneth at the time, this year I was able to get it signed by Tessa as well. You might know Panagria as half of the Johnny Wander team, and Stone as the creator behind Hannah's Not a Boy's Name and Not Drunk Enough. Having them partner on a project is kind of a dream team, and that's not even getting into the premise. Imagine your favorite battle tournament anime, only instead of being about ninja skills or a children's card game, it's about a spelling bee. Like the Outlaw King says, there's only ever 26 letters between you and the grave. There's a character who learns spelling by making ransom notes for her career criminal parents and an evil organization called the Spelluminati. Do yourself a favor, find a copy of Buzz. While I was at the Johnny Wander booth, I also picked up What Makes You Happy, an 18-plus Stucky zine by Jess Fink and Yuko Oda. They were actually carding people before they could sell this to them, which might be as much as I should say about the contents. Hey, after making that shipping manifest video, I had to. In sadder news, while I was at TCAF, I found out that Darwin Cook, a longtime supporter of the festival, had passed away. I don't know if you guys have ever taken a really close look at these books behind me, but I've got DC The New Frontier, Batman Ego, all of his adaptations of the Richard Stark Parker novels. I was first really introduced to Cook's work on his version of Will Eisner's The Spirit, and it's fair to say I'm a really big fan. People often talk about his storytelling as being optimistic and lighthearted, but he could be pretty dark as well. Maybe it's more accurate to say he knew how to handle the mature while not losing sight of the joyful. That's a rare skill, and it's one of many reasons he'll be missed. Well, as always, thanks for watching. If you made it out to TCAF this year yourself, let me know in the comments what you picked up. Check out the description down below for links to everything I talked about. So get reading and keep on henching.